things just went off the rails. A congressman looked the defense secretary in the eye and said what no one else would, and the room went silent.
I recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Cisneros.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, so many topics to cover. I represent California's 31st District, located in Southern California, where you've deployed the National Guard and Marine Combat Battalion in an effort by this administration to provoke a confrontation. God only knows for what reason. As my colleague from Tennessee mentioned, the military has been activated before by the president, but let's tell the whole story. President Johnson federalized the troops after the governor of Alabama activated them to keep black students out of the University of Alabama. President Johnson did it so the students could attend the university. He did it for the right reason. He corrected a wrong. California did not ask the president for help, and the presence of the military is an effort by this administration to intimidate and incite fear and violence amongst its citizens. You failed at ensuring basic operational security by sharing classified data over an unclassified network. This was blatant, lazy, and put service members' lives at risk. And knowing that your office is a SCIF, I hope you are not bringing in your devices, your personal cell phone, or even your work phone, because that's not supposed to be in there either, right, your cell phone, into your office to send these signal chat texts. Your blatant lack of basic OPSEC would have gotten you forced you to resign from any other administration. You're requiring 8% cuts across all services, not to save the taxpayers money, but to fund President Trump's pet projects. You talk about quality of life for our service members, but yet you take $1 billion away from the Army that was meant to improve their barracks and their. You said that money waste, but we don't know that yet because we haven't seen a budget. If the president has projects he wants funding for, you need to come before this body and provide reasoning, not just shift money around. Right now, you are stealing from our service members, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Now you have repeatedly said that you will judge every individual on their merit. Is that true?
Unlike the previous administration,
you will
yes,
judge
we are focusing
simple yes
on,
or no.
for our service
Judge
members,
everybody
how
on their
good they
merit.
are at their job, yes.
But yet you are separating thousands of service members who are performing and doing their job at a high level. They are being separated not based on merit. You know, some of them have been recommended for early promotion and have gotten awards and are doing a great job, but you are separating for no other reason, and frankly, I think you just don't like them. And you are classifying many of them as a national security threat, which is simply not true. You asked the Secretary of the Navy to change the name of the ship, because Harvey Milk didn't meet your definition of warrior ethos. If a Korean War veteran and a Navy diver who gave his life for standing up for his beliefs doesn't meet your definition, I don't know what will. You keep talking about recruiting, but let's face the facts here, right? Recruiting started improving before President Trump even came into office, and the reason that changed was because of the investment that was put into recruiting. Now, I was at the Pentagon at the time, and I know how much we invested in it, and I know how much of the services. And when you take away that investment, you're going to get exactly what happened in President Trump's first administration. In 2019, we had the same recruiting crisis that, back in 2019 when he was president the first time. You continue to attack diversity, but I have always said diversity is about creating opportunity, and I have seen plenty of individuals, many of them enlisted members, who, when given the opportunity, have succeeded not because of their sex, not because of color, not because of their sexual identity, but because of their worth ethic and merit. Mr. Secretary, when using your definition of DEI, I think there's only one individual at the Pentagon right now who got his job based on that merit, and that is you, and you got it because of sucking up to your boss. And with that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair.
What made this exchange explode wasn't the insult at the end. It was the record Cisneros built before he ever went there. Representative Gil Cisneros didn't start with rhetoric. He started with history. And that matters because it stripped away the administration's favorite defense, that deploying troops domestically is just routine presidential authority. Cisneros reminded the room that federalizing troops has happened before, but not like this. When President Lyndon Johnson sent troops to Alabama, it was to stop a governor from blocking black students from attending the University of Alabama. The military wasn't used to intimidate civilians. It was used to protect constitutional rights. California didn't request federal troops. That's the core difference. So, when Cisneros says the deployment of the National Guard and Marines in Southern California is meant to provoke confrontation, he's not making a partisan claim. He's pointing out that this use of force reverses the historical purpose of federal intervention. Instead of correcting a wrong, it risks creating one. From there, the questioning turns sharper and far more consequential. Cisneros accuses Hegseth of failing at the most basic responsibility of a defense secretary: operational security. Sharing sensitive information over unsecured channels isn't a technical error, it's a foundational breach. In any prior administration, that alone would have ended a tenure. And Cisneros makes the point devastatingly clear by asking whether Hegseth even understands what can and cannot enter a SCIF. This isn't about paperwork, it's about lives. When operational details leak, service members pay the price. Then comes the budget, and this is where the hearing shifts from scandal to structure. An 8% cut across services isn't being framed as fiscal responsibility. Cisneros calls it what it is: internal raiding. Money meant for barracks, housing, and quality of life improvements for troops is being redirected without congressional justification. No transparent budget, no explanation, just reshuffling to satisfy presidential priorities. That's not reform, that's bypassing oversight. And when Hegseth claims this is about merit, Cisneros corners him with his own contradiction. Thousands of service members with strong records, awards, and promotion recommendations are being forced out, not for performance, but for who they are or what they represent politically. Labeling them national security threats doesn't make it true, it makes it dangerous. The ship renaming issue drives the point home. A Korean War veteran, a Navy diver who died standing up for his beliefs, suddenly doesn't meet a warrior ethos standard. Cisneros isn't just questioning the decision, he's questioning whether the standard itself has become ideological instead of professional. Then comes recruiting. Hegseth keeps claiming recruiting is improving under this administration. Cisneros dismantles that by pointing out the timeline. Recruiting began improving before Trump returned to office because of investments already made. Pull those investments back, and history tells us exactly what happens: the same recruiting crisis that hit during Trump's first term. Cisneros reframes it in human terms. Diversity isn't about lowering standards, it's about access, opportunity, letting people prove themselves on merit once the door is open. He makes it clear he's watched enlisted service members succeed not because of identity, but because they were finally allowed to compete. And then, only then, does he land the line everyone's replaying. When Hegseth talks about merit, Cisneros says there's only one person at the Pentagon who didn't get there by merit, and it's Hegseth himself. That insult wasn't random, it was the conclusion of a methodical argument that power, loyalty, and ideology have replaced competence, accountability, and transparency. This exchange wasn't about disrespect, it was about legitimacy. And when a defense secretary can't answer basic questions about troop deployment, operational security, budgeting, or civil-military boundaries, the issue isn't tone. The issue is trust. Americans should be asking themselves a simple question. If this is how power is explained under oath, what decisions are being made when no cameras are on? If you believe civilian oversight of the military matters, if you believe service members deserve honesty instead of political theater, make sure this conversation doesn't disappear. Watch closely, ask questions, and don't let accountability get buried under outrage.